Yeah.
And the new direction really was rhythm.
Yes.
We used to have melody, that kind of broke down. We used to have tonality, that kind of broke down. We used to have music, that broke down. Now where do we start? Let's start with rhythm. Let's start with like the most basic heartbeat pulse, and like what can we make out of that?
Yeah.
So that kind of sets the stage for where Short Ride fits into history, so to speak.
It's interesting too that he mentioned Copeland, because the end always sounded Copeland-esque to me. When he finally does a fanfare, it sounds very, very Copeland-esque there, in his own way. You know, so Adams reimagined through Copeland reimagined through Adams' filter.
Yeah. Also, very, very distant cousin, Bolero.
Oh, yeah.
But the incessant...
Sped up.
Yeah. The incessant, like, this thing never stops. You just have to keep playing it and playing it and playing it. And then actually, like, the last couple notes of the piece always remind me of Bolero. The way it just kind of climaxes and ends. Yeah. Autopilot, because it is very planned out. It's not like Terry Riley, you can just do whatever you want, whenever you want. There's time signature changes, you know, a couple times every couple measures kind of thing. And they're odd. They're not predictable time changes.
No.
Yeah, 7/4, 3/2, 4/2, 5/2.
And triplet figures over that,
Yes,
that sort of thing. Cross rhythms, sure.
But for most of the piece, there's not really any hard downbeat. You just got this ongoing pulse, everything playing against the pulse.
Yeah. No, it's true.
I'm struck by something Ruben said too, the way you can just move the bass note even just chromatically, and suddenly he plays with the chromatic tension a lot. So this is a very tonal piece, generally speaking, but he uses elements of dissonance just to kind of create that little bit of tension, and he'll release it in a way that sometimes you don't expect, or in a quarter note you don't expect. When I hear it like that, I'm drawn to the bass notes, the contribution. It feels like just like this massive tanker that's slowly changing directions, and and every time it kind of shifts slightly, even by a half step or a whole step, the whole kind of base of this piece kind of shifts direction. It's really interesting how he uses that. And maybe that's an aspect of why Adams has kind of hit a nerve musically in concert music. Is there's something very organic about this? Life is like this: the push and the pull and the tension and the release in an organized and artistic presentation. That's why it's so interesting. Yeah.
But it's all done. The fact that the whole piece is what makes those even more interesting is that the piece is essentially diatonic or PanDiatonic. It's just a PanDiatonic piece, and sets that up again at the very beginning, fifths, and then a DEA, a quartal harmony or quintal harmony, and that sort of thing. So when you do have a little chromatic shift like that, it's very fresh, very fresh, and as you say, might make a little surprise, free the listener, so to speak. Anyway.
Especially when it goes, because he goes to the flat 2, and then he goes to the natural 2.
Yeah.
So it makes it very ambiguous as to, and you think you know where he's going, and then he surprises you again.
Yeah. And offsets all the diatonicism in the rest of the piece too. So the nice contrast.
Like Douglas said, sometimes it happens at moments you don't expect. A quarter note off from where you think it would. There's something it feels unpredictable. Then in the large scale, it's part of the drama.
Yeah. Organic.
Yeah.
It does develop that way. I know that when there's a chord change, that's a division in the form. Okay, so you have this progression from here to here to here, as opposed to we think of the harmonic rhythm of let's go back to a Bach chorale where the chords change on every beat, almost every beat, and in traditional music where there's a straight progression, modulations, and so forth. And this just, boom, we're going to play with this for a while. How many figurations can he come up with? It is also interesting in that, and we touched upon it a little bit earlier, that a piece that became so incredibly popular, an orchestral piece that became so incredibly popular, that is not dominated by the strings at all. At all. There's no. It's basically a windy, brassy piece with string accompaniment and percussion, of course. So, but for an orchestra piece that is so popular, not to have some kind of big string moment or string moments, it's interesting that it happened that way. The beginning of the slow movement of his piano concerto, Century Rolls, is a little gymnopédie takeoff, and it's so beautiful. For a few minutes, he really lets his heart show on his sleeve. listen to that. Yeah.